What is going on, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Pod Scum. I am your host, your bastard of ceremonies, Reckless Rexx Ruger. That is, of course, the Freddie Mercury puppet. You might also know me as Diamond David Lee Raw Jr., and the hard science will prove it very soon. Little product placement here. I'm product placement here, man. Aquanet. You might not be able to look as good as me, but you could look pretty damn good if you use your Aquanet. I think you're coming in a lot better now, man. Do I got you? Much better. Much better.
Much better?
Much better. Much better. Sam, yeah, that's a lot better, man, for sure. Absolutely, man. Yeah. So, yeah. So you were saying, or actually I was saying, man, that you were having some personal issues. Yeah. And it always sucks when you have personal issues with a pet, man. They literally are like a member of the family.
They are. They absolutely are. Yeah.
It's the worst. It's the reason why my wife won't get into their dog. We have 3 cats, man, but the last couple of dog deaths, man, she takes them very, very hard. Not that I don't, man, but like she just like, no more with the dogs, please,
Right.
I mean, she gets absolutely crushed by him, man. So I want to start, at the beginning for you, man. This musical journey, man. How did it start for you, man? Like, was there a specific album or a song or an artist, man, that really got the fire lit in you to do music?
Yeah, really. What started for me was when I was, I guess, even as a kid, there were a couple songs and things that I would always run around the house singing, apparently, and always loved music, I guess, even as a kid. But really what started me into getting into guitar was a TV show called Rockstar NXS, and the house band was just so killer, and the guitar player on that, a guy named Rafael Moreira, I thought he was so cool. He had like every Gibson guitar imaginable, and so that's what got me into it when I was 10 years old.
I really love that show too, man. And it just so happens, man, that I'm a big NXS fan. I was very curious to see how that would shake out because if I remember right, they were in the process of trying to find a lead singer.
Yes, that's exactly what it was. Yeah, and then my first concert ended up being NXS with their new lead singer. After that, the year after that, I guess.
So that was JD, right?
Yeah.
Although Michael Hutchence was a hard guy to replace, though, man.
Oh, absolutely.
That's not one of those guys where you just kind of, he seemed to have the whole package, man, like the charisma and all that stuff. You know what I mean? Like, and they were one of those cool bands that was like, that could get people onto a dance floor, man, but they could also still rock pretty hard,
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. Not like they were really a heavy rocking band, but it was just really good songs and just really good grooves and really good parts and melodies and just everything. Yeah. So.
So is there one guitar player that you would say has had the most influence on your own personal guitar playing?
I'd have to say, I guess it's probably to say the most influence is probably Jerry Cantrell, most likely. Just the riffs and the tone and everything about him, man. He's killer. But the guys like Tony Iommi too, that guitar player I mentioned, Rafael Moreira, just great tone, great vibrato.
Yeah.
Vivian Campbell, a lot of guys like that.
Yeah, Alice in Chains has a special place in my heart, man. They're always a band that I've really, really loved, and their music has really spoken to me a lot. And like Lane's one of my favorite vocalists of all time.
Awesome. Yeah.
They're really an incredible band. And so I know you're involved in multiple musical projects. Where I know you from primarily is Faster Pussycat. And
yeah, I worked there.
And so, yeah, and still do, correct?
Yes. I've been actually in June, it just became my 5-year anniversary with the guys, so I'm still with them.
And so how do you link up with a band like that that's like, that's been doing it for so long? Like, you're such a young guy, and I certainly don't want to call them old, but they have been at it for a long time, though. You know what I mean? Like, they are like legendary, Sunset Strip, you know what I mean? Like, the band that I think of, like, when I think of, like, like classic, like sleaze metal, you know what I mean? Like, how do you make the link up with them?
Their former guitar player, Ace Von Johnson, who's a very good friend. He's like my older brother that I never had. He was, at the time, he had joined LA Guns, I think like a year prior, and Pussycat had a tour coming up that Ace was not going to be able to do. He lasted doing double duty for about a year. And when that tour came up, and he couldn't do it, he hit me up and asked if I'd be interested in it, and I said absolutely. And so out on that tour with Pussycat in 2019, the guys asked me to stay because it became apparent that Ace wasn't going to be able to do both bands, and so I've been here ever since.
And forgive me for not knowing this in my notes. I kind of threw them together quick. So when's the last time Faster Pussycat has made new music, and have you been involved in creating music with them?
Yes, yeah. There's 2 singles that have been released. We put out a song called Nola in 2021, and we put out a song called Like a Ghost. I think that came out at the end of 2022. There's a B-side as well called Pirate Love, the Johnny Thunder song. And there's a new song called Motorbike that should be coming out maybe around January-ish is what I've kind of heard.
Okay.
And yes, I've been heavily involved in all 3 of those songs and everything else going forward too.
And so what is the creative process like when you get together with the guys? Because obviously, Tammy is such a staple in that band. Or, is the door open, for collaboration? Does somebody come in with the lion's share of the ideas? How does creating with those guys work?
Mostly what we've been working on thus far is songs that Tammy has had for a while, but he's never been able to get them to a place where he was happy with them and like finished with them. And now since he's about, he just turned 7 years sober, I believe. And now with myself working with him, we've been able to get to the songs finished. He's a perfectionist, and I really, really admire that about him. He isn't going to put something out unless he feels really happy with it and feels like it's worth it to be out there to be out there for forever. So we've been working on songs that he's had for a little while, and I've been able to bring in ideas. He's really open to, if I have ideas of it could go like this, it could go like that, and it's we kind of we'll work on guitars kind of a lot first, and then we'll kind of go back and record drums later. And Danny will come in and do bass. And right now we're working on another song that'll be the follow-up to the one that comes out in hopefully January of next year. Don't quote me on that, but that's what I've heard from him, and that's what I've heard him say to people. But that song is called Motorbike, and then we're working on the one that's going to come after that right now.
And because there's such an age difference, and I don't know how young of a guy you are, but you look like a young guy. If you don't mind me asking, how old are you?
I am. I'm what am I? I'm 29.
29. Okay. So how much prior knowledge did you have of Faster Pussycat and their discography and their work?
Not much.
Not much.
No. Yeah. Ace called me for the gig, and kind of eventually I was like, yeah. And then maybe about a month before the tour, I got a set list with a couple extra alternate songs. I learned those and rehearsed with Chad Stewart and Danny Nordahl, the drummer and bass player. Mm-hmm. Rehearsed with them, I think, twice, and then rehearsed with the second guitar player at that time, which was Christian Simon. He came into town, and we did one rehearsal with him. Tammy Down came in and sang half of one song and was like, all right, see you at the gig. And then we went on tour for 50 shows. So my knowledge wasn't I had seen a few shows beforehand, just from playing on the same festival dates in a past group I worked with. And so, but I just learned them for that tour. And then once it kind of became a more permanent thing, kind of just learned them even closer to the record. And then we started adding more songs and learned more of them. And
so now it's got to be pretty crazy because you're out there, man, and you're realizing, man, like, that this band has had like a major impact and that their songs are like anthems, man. I mean, you learn this material and then you get out there and you realize, like, holy shit, these songs really have resonated with people for a long time. And now suddenly you're playing them.
They're also very fun to play.
Yeah.
So it's, I have heavy involvement with Tammy in figuring out what the set list is going to be night to night, because we'll kind of change it sometimes. And at least when we go out on tour, we have maybe a pool of 20, 21, 22 songs that we pull from to make, 15 or 16 into a show every night,
Yeah.
something like that, depending, maybe 14. It just kind of depends which ones we're doing. Certain ones are longer than others. And yeah, man, it's really, really fun. It's cool to see. It's cool that a big majority of the fans have been always very accepting and excited to what I've brought with the band, and so it's really, really fun to work there.
So there's no way in hell
Sure.
that you can ever leave Bathroom Wall out of the set list. That has to be in all the time, correct?
Yeah, that has to be there.
And obviously, people would probably be pissed if House of Pain was not in there.
Absolutely.
You know, I'm sure there's certain songs with that band, I mean, that people turn out and they like expect to hear those songs,
Well, there's those certain situations too that you're put in. Like if you're doing we just did a couple festival shows on the last tour that we did. So when you only have 40 or 45 minutes, it gets even more challenging to kind of fit in all the stuff that the fans would want to hear and the stuff that, we selfishly want to play because, selfishly we do enjoy playing music.
Sure.
Yeah, it's always really fun to figure it out. And sometimes you have to leave one or two out, but House of Pain doesn't get left out and Bathroom Wall doesn't get left out. And there's a couple others that are just always in there. Slip of the Tongue's usually always in there. Cat House is usually always in there. We'll pick on those shorter sets, we picked one new song to do. So we did Like a Ghost, which was the more recent of the newer material. But then on the headline shows, it's just, whatever we kind of decide for that night.
And from going on YouTube and watching, like recent performances, unlike a lot of his contemporaries, not to mention, other legendary acts, but Tammy still really sounds incredibly, all you guys do. I mean, the whole band in general sounds great, man. But Tammy, unlike a lot of the lead singers, from his generation, really seems like his voice and his, his ability to perform has really held up incredibly well.
Yeah, and again, seven years sober.
Good for him
on that guy.
that's great.
It's really great, and I personally, I can only speak for myself, but I feel like the lineup that the band has right now is really, really solid. Chad Stewart and Danny Nordo, who have been in the band almost as long as I've been alive. And then our second guitar player, Kieran Robertson, who came to us from Jeff Tate's band, and he's been fucking great. So it's been awesome.
Yeah, and so I'm curious, as someone who's playing in a band, whose career did kind of stem from the '80s. I'm curious from a fan standpoint where you stand on when we see these other bands, and I'll use a band like Motley Crue or Kiss, for instance. Like when you see these bands getting beat up on social media for using, and I'm not a musician myself, but you see backing tracks thrown in there a lot, or these different smoke and mirror type tricks that bands use to kind of bolster their sound a little bit. Where do you stand on that? If you're going to see a band live yourself, would you rather see it warts and all kind of and have it be authentic and maybe not sound as good? Or are you okay with these legendary bands like kind of using these different, techniques to try to, replicate their sound and sound better?
Well, I'd like to feel like myself, a lot of what I listen to is kind of not as centered on that. I guess there are plenty of bands that I do listen to that I know do use tracks, and it's generally in a what we call a supplemental kind of way. So it's the kind of thing, whereas another group that I work with uses tracks, but there's no vocals. All the vocals are live. We sing. It's literally just the synth and the things that are created, that aren't able to be played. They're literally created in a computer to give, a different feel or to the particular genre of rock that we're playing. So, I mean, for me personally, it's actually kind of funny with Faster Pussycat on that same subject. We played a show earlier this year, and somebody online in a Facebook group was accusing us of using backing tracks because I'm singing these higher parts in a song called Where There's a Whip, There's a Way, and in a song called You're So Vain, there's a high female vocal, and I'm fucking singing it. So it's, it's funny because we've been accused of using tracks, and it's like, Dude, I'm the dude doing it. There's no
Yeah.
tracks, I promise you. So, yeah, I don't know. Personally, it's hard for me to say what other bands do. For me personally, I like coming from it being purely supplemental, as far as like a modern band kind of doing stuff with like synthy kind of things and things like that. I'm not the biggest fan of the vocal track thing and whatnot, but that's just me personally. So that's just what I can say. But everybody operates how they operate.
Now, do you think there's a lot of pressure nowadays because we are in the social media age? Because it seems like, at concerts, when people are pulling out their phones, oftentimes they're not taking a video to record it for posterity's sake, or to get a snippet of their favorite song. It does seem like a lot of people are going home and trying to blow in their bands and stuff and try to almost like be like armchair music critics. It's got to be a tough time to be like a musician, because it seems like everyone is just out there with their phones, and then they're trying to rush back and hurry home and post the videos and say, hey, see, these guys aren't what they used to be. See, they're doing this. See, they're doing that. I mean, is it anything that plays, into your mentality when you're up on stage, knowing that people are out there sometimes and they're going to try to, critique what you're doing?
Yeah, I mean, that is definitely something that is dealt with these days, especially with anybody having a platform that they can just put it out there and then have people listen to them. But no, I mean, is it something I think about? Not really. I'm just
That's probably healthy.
I mean, I'm always just
Don't think about
trying.
it.
I'm always just trying my best to hopefully put on a okay show, and to hopefully not. I am human, and sometimes I play without my glasses on, so I usually can't see. So you might get something special that night.
Yeah.
No, but yeah, there's things like you mentioned the Motley Crue thing, and there was a thing where John 5, people are trying to criticize him of using guitar tracks, and it's like, no, man, the guy's just really good. He's just hammering it on, and
Yeah.
he's a really good guitar player. So like it's yeah, so I don't know, it's funny for sure, but I don't really think about it. I just try to do my best.
And so what are the other projects that you're involved in that people might not be aware of, and might only know you from Faster Pussycat? Like, what else can you tell us that you're up to?
Absolutely. I play with so in addition to Faster Pussycat, I play with an artist named Dorothy. I've been with her for, I guess, technically about 4 years. I came
Okay, now
along
wait a second. I got to stop you right here, man. Was Dorothy out last year with Dirty Honey?
Yep.
Probably
2022, actually, end of 2022.
I probably fucking then I guess I would have seen you on stage, because I'm here in upstate New York, man. I went to when Dirty Honey played one of the casinos here, and Dorothy did open up. You've been playing with her for a while.
I was there. I would have been there.
Holy shit, Sam! Then I have seen you fucking live. Then.
Oh fuck!
Yeah.
I think I know what casino you're talking about too. Upstate New York, kind of near Syracuse-ish.
Yeah, it's called Del Lago.
That's the one.
Yeah.
The one.
And Dirty Honey was fucking. I mean, a lot of times, like, you don't go always with especially if you don't check them out prior to. Sometimes you don't know what the expectation is on an opening band. A lot of people will dismiss an opening band. They're there for who they're there for, man. But she was fucking phenomenal.
It's really, really fun. She is a amazing singer. She is a powerhouse, and it's really, really fun to work there. I enjoy playing with all the different players that are on the gig, because they're always so great, and I love feeling like the weaker link in the band. And the bass players and drummers that she has come in, it's just like they're some pretty awesome guys. So yeah, so I worked there. I played with Dorothy. I've been with her, yeah, like I said, about 4 years, I think now. I played some on the last record, which was called Gifts from the Holy Ghost, and then I played some on her upcoming record, which I believe is called The Way, and is supposed to come out next year sometime.
Okay.
So I play with her. I play with a band called Butterside. We had an album called White Flame that dropped in July, and that's a band. They've been around for a little while, and I started playing with them in 2017. But more recently, all of the work and the songs we've been putting out, which became the record White Flame, is all stuff that I've written with the band. So that's an album of 12 songs that.
And for people that don't know what style of music that is, like, what would you classify them as?
It's definitely heavier, harder rock.
Okay.
It's kind of Alice in Chains influence, maybe some Bring Me the Horizon, kind of some modern rock bands.
Okay.
But just hopefully heavy, cool riffs that people can jam out to. That's the main thing that I try to accomplish there. And then also a band called CROSSBONE SKULLY, which is Tommy Henriksen from the Alice Cooper band. It's his baby and project. That record is coming out end of next month, I think, kind of towards the end of November. And we're doing the debut 2 shows in Los Angeles at the Viper Room here, November 20th and 21st.
So how do you end up linking up with a guy like him? Is it because of the work with Faster Pussycat? Is that how you end up on his radar?
Everything kind of leads to something, you know, everything's kind of connected somehow.
Yeah.
Tommy really came from my very good friend Albane for Leather, who is a super, super talented leather worker. He makes all my guitar straps, and he does theatrical clothing and clothing for musicians and all this kind of stuff. So he connected us because he's been friends with Tommy for quite a long time. And then I guess, was it last year? I think it was last year in 2023. Tommy was filming some music videos, and Albane hit me up, and he was like, "Hey, what's your bass player friend? Blah 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 blah." I'm like, "Oh well, why are you asking?" And he's like, "Oh, Tommy needs a bass player in these music videos." And I was sitting here, and I was like, "Oh, I own a bass. Like, I'll do it." And
have bass will travel and work.
Yeah, man, I'll take 2 strings off. I don't care. And then Tommy hit me up, and he's like, "Oh, dude, I didn't think you'd want to do it. You're a guitar player." I'm like, "Dude, I'll play bass in your music video. Like, you're rad."
Sure.
So, and then that turned into doing more music videos with him. And the next time around, he was like, "I want you to be on guitar." You know, he decided to go a different direction, and so he wanted me on guitar. So I've been in guitar for however many videos. I think there's maybe four, I think now, that have come out, and then I think there's 2 more that we shot, and then the debut shows are November 20th and 21st here in LA.
And music videos are an interesting thing because obviously, like MTV, like, you know, the MTV that I remember, I mean, I'm 51 years old. The MTV that I remember was saturated with music videos and very little anything else. Certainly not the reality TV shows and the shit that we see on there nowadays. But they are still quite an important, marketing tool, though. Do you enjoy making them?
Yeah, it kind of depends. Usually, I've done so many between Dorothy, Butterside, and CROSSBONE SKULLY. Even just the one particular director, this really, really, really talented director named Vicente Cordero. The amount of videos that we've done with Butterside and CROSSBONE SKULLY, I think he and I are almost up to 16 or 17 videos we've done together.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, they're fun. We've done with Butterside, we've done some super fun ones. We've done some that were less fun. We did one that was in Lake Tahoe, which was just absolutely beautiful, but we were standing in like 10 feet of snow. So that was freezing.
That's a rough day. That's a rough day on the job.
Yeah, but then we did another one where we were all dressed as the Scooby-Doo characters, or we did another one that was all kind of like Mad Max-ish, and then the ones with Tommy have just been kind of cool performance-based videos. So it's always fun and interesting to see how they turn out. It's a fun part of the process, especially for Butterside, because it's just the music is kind of more close to my heart, since it's stuff that I kind of worked on from the ground up. So.
And then where do you stand on like playing like live? Like I talked to so many musicians on here, and like touring is not obviously like what it once was. Obviously you see a lot of bands, they have to really slog it out on the road. They got to hope they can peddle some merchandise. It's a difficult business nowadays. I know as I get older, And this is just probably me being a stodgy old fuck. But I mean, I like being a homebody. I like my creature comforts. I think we all do on some level. How often do you like to go out and tour? Like, what's a comfortable itinerary for you? Like, how long do you go out, on tour? Are you a guy that likes that nomadic existence of kind of being out on the road?
I'll be honest with you, man. I really like playing guitar. So getting to be out on the road and do that every day, I very much enjoy doing that. Definitely in the last couple years since I've moved into where I am currently, I very much enjoy being home, especially with the dog and the whole setup. So this year of touring, this particular last year, was great because it's been a good year, and without having to kind of go on tour for 8-10 weeks at a time.
Right.
So I don't know. It's kind of hard to say. I kind of enjoy both. I enjoy the sporadic kind of dates because that's also worked well this year for juggling these multiple projects. Like Butterside was out for about 3 weeks, and then Faster Pussycat went out for about 4 weeks, and then there was some Dorothy stuff. I played on a record. I can't totally remember all of it, but
Is that about how far Tammy likes to stretch it though? He's been doing this a long time. Like, does he like to go out for a long period of time, or like, or is it more kind of like picking your spots?
He actually likes going out for a long time, and that's kind of like the thing is the last couple tours with Pussycat, I guess the last couple of years have kind of been split up. So we do like about 4 or 5 weeks at a time, as opposed to doing one shot of 8 to 10 weeks, which personally I like more. You go out because about the 4-week mark is where you start being like, okay, fuck you,
I've heard that from other musicians. That 3 or 4 week mark is where you really start to get the itch to want to be like, okay, enough's enough,
Just a little bit. I mean, I'm pretty easy. I'm pretty low key. I kind of I'm okay with kind of dealing with everybody else's issues and frustrations, because again, I'm just kind of like, yeah, man, I just want to play guitar. So like, I'm good. I'm easy. Just let me sleep and take a shower. I personally like the kind of sporadic thing, but at the same time, not. There's the plus of going out and doing a whole tour, because then you have your gear. I can bring as many guitars as I want. With doing fly dates with Dorothy or something, you kind of have to compromise. Only take 2 guitars, use backline amps, all those kind of things. So, but regardless, I'm just happy to work. So,
how about those rock cruises? Have you had the opportunity to do any of those cruises yet?
Oh yeah, man, I've done like I got to go back and count, but I'm definitely at 8, 9, or 10 so far, and already booked on doing 3 next year.
And these are mostly with Pussycat?
Next year there's 2 with Pussycat. We're doing 2 back to back. There's the 80s cruise, which I think is March 2nd through 9th, and then there's the Monsters of Rock cruise, which is the 10th through the something of March 15th possibly. And then there's the Creed cruise with Dorothy, and that's April 9th through 13th.
I have got to work on my wife about getting on one of these 80s cruises, man, because I would love to go back to the 80s and just fucking stay there. I want to stay there.
And it's they're a good time. I personally enjoy them quite a bit because you play twice, and then the rest of the time you're just hanging out with usually good people, and free food, nice gym, nice views, nice.
Absolutely.
It's nice. It's nice. It's a good gig.
Okay, so I got a couple purely subjective questions now. This is just Sam's opinion here. If you could give me your Mount Rushmore of all-time favorite music acts, who would your top 4 be for you?
Top 4 bands. This is
your Mount Rushmore. Of just performers, bands, whatever.
Absolutely. Alice in Chains, Monster Magnet, Shine Down, and fuck the last one, man.
You were on a roll too, man. You rattled off the first 3 fast as shit.
I know.
I was like, wow, man, this is a decisive guy right here.
I know, because those are just like the just because Shinedown had such a huge hand in like my, formative years as a kid. Just I grew up loving that band. And then it kind of moved into like Alice in Chains and Monster Magnet. So those, I guess maybe for the last one, maybe I just got to say Black Sabbath, just because.
So influential. So it's almost so influential to anybody that plays hard rock / heavy metal,
I actually just, not to detour from your question, but just the other night I got to do a gig with Vinny Appice.
Oh, legend. Yeah.
Who spent some time in Sabbath, and we did, a bunch of those Dio Sabbath songs and a bunch of Dio songs. And I grew up playing that stuff in bars as a kid. And that's why that's got to be in the Mount Rushmore for sure.
And I'm proud to say, as an upstate New York guy, that we proudly get to claim Ronnie James Dio. He's from right down the fucking road, man. So he's a New Yorker, man. We got to claim our own, man. You know what I mean? Like, if legends come from here, man, we got to let the people know where they come from, man. And Ronnie James Dio's an upstate New York guy, man.
As you should, yeah.
Fucking legend, yeah, an absolute legend. Okay, so another one here, and I don't know if I'm going to get flack, but I've recently started this segment called Rock Swap. Now, if we could take a dead musician and bring them back and trade somebody out, what would the trade be?
Oh, wow.
Who do we want back that's dead, first of all, man? I had somebody on here the other day who made a really good one. They took Dimebag back, and we gave God Harry Styles.
Oh, this is hard.
Sorry, Harry.
You're gonna make me single out somebody. Oh man. Fuck. Sorry. I think I'm probably gonna also go with bring Dimebag back.
Okay.
And then one artist to get rid of.
Jesus, Sam, when you put it that way, it sounds fucking horrible. My God. It is horrible. It is horrible. Yeah. I'm not going to sit here and lie. That's not horrible. It's horrible.
Like, shoot, man.
But I feel like Dimebag for Harry Styles, though, man, the other night, and I can't remember which guest suggested that one, but that is a fair and equitable trade. If anything, man, we are fucking making out great. I mean, that guy should be the GM. That guy should be the GM. Whoever that guest was should be the GM of a fucking sports team. That's a trade.
I do like some Harry Styles songs, though. I do have a soft spot.
Oh, you can spare him. You can spare him.
Yeah, he I would spare. But who's somebody that everybody's always gonna? I don't know. I don't pay attention to much of anything.
Maybe Justin Bieber? Are you a fan of Justin Bieber?
No. So yeah, he can go.
I mean, he's mixed up in the Diddy stuff. He's probably suffered enough, but still, I mean, we want Dimebag back. For fuck's sake, we got to give him somebody, man. I probably would take Lane Staley back too, man. Lane Staley be somebody I'd be interested.
That's who first popped into my head when you first asked the question, and then you said Dimebag, and I'm like, ah.
Yeah, it would be. I know. It's like we've lost so many fucking great legends, man. You know what I mean? Like I often think and look at my music collection, and I think, holy fuck, man, there's more bands that I fucking love where somebody pivotal has died in them. You know what I mean? It really, really sucks. You know, I was crushed, man, when Lane Staley died. Absolutely crushed. I email a few times a year, like with his mom, and like we've kind of forged like a pretty nice friendship. And she's always inviting me out to the yearly Lane Staley tribute thing. And you know, she's always doing great work out there. Shout out Nancy. And she's always doing good. She's raising money for, addiction recovery and for people that suffer from, addiction of any kind. I mean, obviously Lane suffered with heroin addiction, but I mean, good woman, good lady.
Yeah, that's great. Yeah. I'm actually going to change my answer now that you said that. I just remembered Chris Cornell. That's somebody whose music has been extremely influential, just between Soundgarden and Audioslave and his solo stuff and Temple of the Dog and. Yeah,
and a lot of those guys in the Seattle in that Seattle grunge scene, for lack of a better word, I know they don't love having it called grunge, man. Yeah. But a lot of them, you kind of knew that they had their demons, man. The Chris Cornell one kind of snuck up and bit us in the ass. I didn't see that one coming.
Yeah, it did, man. It was
that one kind of came out of left field.
I was supposed to see him that week. I only got to see him perform once, and it was solo. But I had actually, I think right when he died, I had flown home for one of my siblings' graduations. But that week, Soundgarden was going to be playing in my hometown, which was St. Louis, Missouri. And I think I was supposed to see him like 2 days after he had passed, something like that. So never got to see him with Soundgarden. But grateful that I got to see him do a solo show and got to see one of the Temple of the Dog shows that they did in Los Angeles a few years back here.
Yeah, I got to see him on a Lollapalooza a couple times with Soundgarden. Never got to see him solo, and unfortunately, never got to see Alice in Chains with Lane Staley. And for the longest time, I was kind of resistant to anybody else stepping into Lane Staley's shoes. I'm starting to drink the Kool-Aid a little bit now and realize that William Duvall is doing a very commendable job or whatever, man. But for the longest time, I just left a bad taste in my mouth because I'm such a Lane Staley fan and such a purist, you know what I mean? And for the longest time, I just couldn't. I couldn't accept anybody else singing those songs.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely understand that. When I got into the band, because of my age, it was when they already had William. So when I went back and really kind of dug in, I realized when I was about 15, kind of first getting into them, and I was like, oh, there was somebody else before him. So I went.
Your boy was there.
Yeah. Went back and rediscovered. But again, just I love seeing Cantrell kind of take even more of a role, and I think William does a great job on the classic stuff and brings his own thing. So
yeah, and they're always a band that harmonizes great together too, man. Jerry's got such an incredible voice,
Absolutely.
So if I were to drop you, Sam, onto a desert island, and you could only take one album with you, what would the desert island album be?
Ooh, that's a hard one.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go with.
And I do like you, Sam, so maybe I would let you take somebody's whole discography, man. But that's it. Nothing more than that. Maybe you can pick an artist and their discography, which I seem lately with my guests, man. I'm giving in a lot, and I'm not sticking to the Desert Island one fucking album rule that I set for myself. And I'm letting too many people just, say, oh, I would take everything by the fucking Beatles or whatever. You know what I mean? Like, but really, I meant this as a take one fucking album, and essentially, I guess you're gonna die on the album or die on the desert island with this album. So I guess it has to be one that you could really tolerate for, to live out your remaining days. To fucking, I guess essentially it'd be the soundtrack to your death.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that would be the hope, right? Unless something happens and you start, you get on that island, but then you have to live forever on that island. Like that sounds horrible.
I guess anybody's music would probably get tiring then if that was the case. I mean,
well, it's more so the thought about the living forever thing.
Yeah,
that would get tiring.
Yeah.
I think I'm gonna go with. I will commit to your. Sorry, I'm checking on my computer just to make sure that I make this right decision. But I'm gonna go with one record, and I'll go with Cobras and Fire by Monster Magnet. It's a reimagined album of their album Mastermind. So they went back to this album that they're called Mastermind, which that could also have been my Desert Island album. But they kind of reworked some of the songs and kind of made them even a little more spacier and kind of a little heavier. So I'm going to go with that. It's Cobras and Fire by Monster Magnet.
One thing I love that you did too, man, you went on and fact checked yourself too, man, while you were answering the question, man. I don't think I had anybody do that yet. You really wanted to make sure before you committed. You even we saw you. I actually, like how they used to say in math class, you showed your work.
I give a shit. It's one of my it's one of my downfalls.
You take this music, you take this music thing serious. There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, hey, if you're gonna be on a desert island with this album, man, you want to make sure that you're fucking making the right pick.
Yeah, and die quickly.
Yeah. And die quickly. Yeah. Now, what is it about this album specifically for people that don't know, man? Why does it resonate with you so much? Is it one of those albums where, because I feel like if you're on this desert island, you're going to go through a lot of emotions. That's why I've said, I've talked to people on here from extreme metal bands, and I'll even say, no offense to what you do, but I couldn't just live out my days listening to death metal or thrash or any one kind of music. I would almost need an album that would kind of take me through the gamut of emotions. I don't know that I could just do heavy all the time or just do easy listening all the time. I would love something that would kind of give me like a little bit of everything. Was that what this album speaks to for you?
Yeah, that's why I actually picked this one, and why I was originally kind of looking at Mastermind, the original version of some of these songs. but I picked this one because it's like, yeah, it's got dynamics, it's got some really kind of heavy stonery kind of, for lack of a better term, stoner rock riffs.
Yeah.
And then it has the dynamics and kind of a little more chill, because that's what I love about that particular band, Monster Bang, is that they just have these incredible guitar tones and this kind of real spacey kind of thing, and then they have these other really kind of mellow and melodic and like just really really cool songs. So that's that's why I went with that.
And
And
what has been
I don't get to I don't know if you are familiar with that particular band, but I don't run into a lot of people that are too familiar with that band. So I just like to talk about them any chance I get.
Hey, well, listen, man. I mean, you're being a good mouthpiece for them right now, man. You know what I mean? So, I mean, encourage people to check them out. You know what I mean? Like, I kind of feel like I have, and I almost feel like I may have seen them. All the concerts kind of bleed together sometimes, man. But I almost feel like I actually saw them here in my neck of the woods once. And I want to say that it would have been on a tour with maybe Typo Negative, and this would have been going back a long, long time. And I'm not sure. I'm not even sure. Does that sound like a feasible pairing? Does that sound like somebody they would be out on tour with, possibly?
First of all, that sounds like it would be
amazing,
the greatest thing ever to see.
Yeah.
That sounds like it could be completely possible. I mean, their first, I think their first record came out in 1991, and they're from New Jersey, which is kind of near you, so it's extremely possible.
So, since I'm talking about concerts, man, is there one that stuck out in your mind and been the most memorable for you as a fan? You know what I mean? Like a band that you've gone to see live?
Yeah.
One that's really left an impact or a mark on you?
There's definitely been ones that have been impactful, even though there's not one that's coming to mind straight away. I'd have to think about that. But yeah, there's definitely been ones that have there's been so many shows that I've seen that I've walked away and been like, okay, that has to be in my top 3. And now I don't know what's in my top 3 anymore.
And then you see something else and it pushes that out of the top 3, and then suddenly that one enters your top 3. So, so if you're gonna sit down and like let's say you're putting around your house, you're cleaning, you're doing whatever, you're taking care of the dogs, you're out for a walk, or you're listening to music from a fan standpoint, man. Are you able to get into newer bands, or are you somebody that kind of like leans on your old staples, like if you're gonna listen to music for your own personal enjoyment?
I do get into newer bands. There's a newer band that I really like called Nerve, Nerv. They're really cool. I think this is kind of a semi-newer band. It's called 1000 Mods. I really like them. I've been digging the new Marilyn Manson songs. There's a newer band called Unto Others that I really, really like. So absolutely. I check stuff out all the time, and then if I like, another band called Cardinal Black. Cardinal Black has a guitar player that I really really dig a lot. His name's Chris Buck. All the time, always looking for new stuff all the time.
See, the podcast has helped me do that too, because for a while, again, I was being that stodgy, cranky old fucking bastard that was always like, if I had time to listen to music, I'm leaning on my old shit from the 80s and the 90s or whatever. Doing the podcast has helped me, try to follow the algorithm on my platform and try to say, if I like this, maybe I would like this, and try to expand my horizons a little bit more and try to give younger bands a platform and an opportunity to come on here, man. But it was tough for a long time trying to find stuff that's new and interesting, because you get to a certain point, you feel like you've heard everything,
Yeah, I guess so, and I mean, just me personally, just kind of in the creative sense too, just always kind of looking for inspiration wherever, you kind of hear something and it's just like, ooh, yeah, at least for me, it'll kind of spark some interest, and I'm like, ooh, I should go play guitar, and then all of a sudden I write something, and then all of a sudden it turns into a Butterside song, or all of a sudden it turns into a song that I'm going to set aside for something else, or, so it's kind of like a fun little circle.
As a guitar player, what do you feel like in the last, let's say, year? What do you feel like has been the biggest change in your guitar playing, or something that you've learned or have implemented on the instrument, or that or maybe something that you want to get better at or learn?
I mean, I'm always trying to get better and learn all the time. So always just trying to um, get better in the live sense. Always just trying to get better at writing stuff and just always trying to refine and get better. What's something that I've learned? Um, okay, I mean, here's just a fun little, I guess, nerdy thing that I have kind of figured out in the last week. Guitar strings. So
Okay.
like I've always kind of when I was a kid, I used really heavy guitar strings because I would always play really hard and really kind of like for overbends and stuff. I always kind of liked the feeling of heavier strings. And then a few years ago, I kind of went down a little bit in gauge and then went down again. And then I've been on that gauge for definitely the last few years. And then I put a lower gauge custom set of strings on this gold top guitar here. And because it kind of felt like it needed something a little lighter than the usual gauge. So I put those strings on there, and now that guitar has kind of become like my number two. It's gone everywhere with me the last few months. And so now on my other guitars, my main guitars, and then at that Vinny gig that I just did this last week, and a Dorothy gig I just did this last week, I tried lighter strings on my main two guitars, and really, really enjoyed it. So kind of starting to realize like, why am I working so hard?
Yeah.
I still kind of like the feel of the other strings, but maybe the other ones are, I don't know, better. I don't know. So that's a little nerdy thing for you.
So for people that are like out there that are guitar players, man, and again, I'm not a musician, but there are people who will sometimes in the comment section be curious as to what kind of gear people use. Are you one of those guys that plays a specific guitar and likes a specific guitar? What's your, for lack of a better word, me not knowing it and being in the business, what's your gear? What's your gear type setup?
Oh, be careful opening this can of worms. I will not shut up. Okay, so it's mostly Gibson guitars.
Okay.
Very much. I've got two black Les Paul Customs that I love very much.
Beautiful.
There's one that's sitting on the couch. That's a 71. I've had that guitar for a little over 5 years, maybe 6 years at this point, and I own 30 something guitars, and no other guitar I own sounds like that. It just has a mid range that even my Les Paul Juniors, which are known to be kind of mid rangey guitars, it just has this mid range pop to it that no other guitar I have has. And then this one, which has been a really great guitar, touring for the last 2 years since I got it. So I've got two of these black ones. So it kind of starts there, and then the other guitars get swapped. Like basically, I will walk in with this guitar to play with Pussycat, Dorothy, CROSSBONE SKULLY, BUDDERSIDE, Vinny Appleseed, whoever, or that one. And then these other guitars all just kind of get swapped in and out depending on the gig. So for Faster Pussycat, I've got other guitars that I bring in. If I'm playing with Dorothy, I've got other guitars that I take. If I play with BUDDERSIDE, there's a couple crossover guitars there. And then actually right now I'm trying to figure out what guitars I'm going to use for CROSSBONE SKULLY. So anyway, it basically starts with Gibson Les Pauls, and most of them have a pickup in them, which are made for me by Pariah Pickups, and it's a model called the SAM BAM humbucker that anybody can order if anybody's a guitar player and if anybody cares.
Okay.
And then some parts by a company called FU Tone, which are generally known for making parts for Floyd Rose guitars, the guitars with the whammy bars and shit, and the Dimebag squeals. But they make these bridges that I love on my Les Pauls. And then I usually plug into an amp that's called a Friedman, which is sitting right here. I actually picked it up from the man himself today from going through it. And then A bunch of pedals. I've got a bunch of different pedal boards, and I've got like 3 different pedal boards depending on what the gig is, and I've got pedals on the floor all around me.
I've often noticed that everybody's favorite guitar is always a little bit freaking dinged up. Like I see on your guitar there, you've got some scratches, you've got some dings, but I notice sometimes, man, that some guitars will be even more beat up than that one is. But those seem to be everybody's go-to guitar, though. Does a good guitar, and again, I'm not a guitar player, does a good guitar have to have go through a little wear and tear?
Well, I mean, this has gone through wear and tear because it's gotten used a lot. So,
Yeah.
At least, and then since I know there's definitely 1, if not 2, if not 3 owners prior to me on this particular guitar, because this guitar is a 1990, so it's been around for next year it'll be like 35 years old. So, but then a lot of this stuff kind of on the front has come from me just playing and touring with it constantly the last 2 years. For everybody, for musicians, it's all subjective to the person. So to me personally, I don't love new guitars. I don't love how they feel. I like something that's older, like this kind of doesn't really have much finish on the back of the neck.
Yeah.
And that just kind of feels nice. That's why these, and that's also something about the Les Paul Custom in particular, these ones, as opposed to another Les Paul, just the kind of wood and everything about it just kind of feels right. I'm also very by feel. So it's all just kind of what feels right. But what works for me probably doesn't work for the next guy.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
So it's all extremely subjective.
But it seems like everyone's guitar, man, especially the guitar they love, always looks a little bit lived in. You know what I mean? It looks like it's been, it looks like it's at least been in a war, or at least a battle. Maybe not a full-on war, but you know what I mean? Like your guitar looks a little battle-worn, but maybe not like it's been through a goddamn war. But I've seen like Mike McCready from Pearl Jam will go up there, and he's got big chunks of the wood gone and like big chips in it. And I mean, the thing looks like it's barely holding up. But then he goes up there and he plays, and it's fucking amazing.
Well, I guess some people say it is like you're going into battle every night.
Yeah,
so,
it kind of is. Yeah. And I guess you want your guitar to have a few miles on it.
Yeah, certain ones get fucked up a little more than others, especially when you play it so much, and I wear a bunch of jewelry on my wrists and stuff, and and I can't not do that, because if I don't, I feel naked. So, it's just it happens. It's a side effect of the job, and but personally, the more beat up the guitar gets, the happier I am. So,
well, to a certain extent, there is a certain
to an extent.
Yeah, but to a certain extent, there is a certain like look, though, man. Like you don't just jump up on stage, with Faster Pussycat. You know what I mean? They certainly have cultivated a look over the years, though. So I understand the jewelry and the the certain accessories that go with it. You know what I mean? Like they do project a certain image, correct?
Oh, I mean, it's not even really that. It's just me personally. I've always, like, even as a kid, I had these fucking Avenged Sevenfold wristbands that I would always wear. I've always needed to have something on my wrist, so it's just developed into this kind of jewelry and different pieces that people have given me along the way.
But I certainly would describe a band like Faster Pussycat, though, as they are certainly to an extent, though, man, and they do come from that MTV era, obviously, man. But a lot of those bands that stem from the 80s, though, there's just as much a visual aspect to them, as the amazing songs, though. You know what I mean? Like when I think of Faster Pussycat, I think of a lot of leather. I think of the sleaze, you know what I mean? Like I think of a certain like look, you know what I mean? Like that's, that was kind of like, reminiscent of the times.
Yeah, I mean, I just wear black. I just wear black, and
I can definitely see that working
cool
for Faster Pussycat. Yeah, definitely black.
It's a good thing. It kind of works for everybody and for every situation. So, that's just
Johnny Cash was onto something.
He knew what he was doing.
He
for
knew
sure.
what he was doing. Well. Listen, Sam, better late than never. I'm glad we finally got a chance to do this, man. I'm glad everything is okay with your dog. I'm glad that we were able to fire this up at some point, man. It was a lot of fun talking to you, man. For sure, keep in touch, man. I would love to have you back on again, man. It was enjoyable chatting with you, man. It really was. I'm glad we got a chance to do this.
Oh, I appreciate it, man. I appreciate your patience. I didn't forget.
Yeah.
It was just, I had to kind of hand feed the dog for a little while so that he would eat and then give him his meds. So I
Hey,
appreciate
listen, man,
you
I've
being
got
so
3 kids.
understanding.
I've got 3 kids, 6 grandkids, and a wife. So I know about patience.
I'm sorry to hear.
I'm glad my wife is out at work tonight, is not within earshot to have heard that despicable comment, Sam. For God's sakes, I'm a married guy. Jesus, have a little respect for this for the institution of marriage. For God's sakes.
It's all just for the laugh, man.
Listen, man, I would agree with you, man, though. After 26 years of being married, though, man, it's like a second job. You got to put a lot of work into it, you do.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not for the faint of heart. Neither is growing old. Yeah, not for the faint of heart. But yeah, so stay young and stay out there having a good time, man.
Try my best.
Yeah. I enjoy what you do, man. I'm a fan. I love your playing, man. And you've really brought an amazing dynamic to a band that I love in Faster Pussycat, man. I've grown up, rocking with those guys, man. And I love the element that you brought to it, man. I'm glad you're on board, man. And you make the band sound amazing.
I appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Yeah. So thanks for taking the time, brother. We'll do it again sometime.
No problem. Awesome, man. Thanks for having me.
All right. Thanks, brother. Talk to you soon, man. There he goes, folks. Sam Bam Koltun. As you heard, guitar player for Dorothy, guitar player for Butterside, CROSSBONE SKULLY, and what I know most from, the legendary glam, sleaze, 80s LA rockers, man. The epitome of what that scene was. The amazing Faster Pussycat, led by, of course, the legendary frontman, Tammy Down. They are fucking legends, man. And Sam, been in the band for several years now, has really infused them with his youthful exuberance and vitality, and has just brought a great dynamic to the band. His playing is fucking absolutely amazing, man. And who knew? Little did I know, man, that I saw him when he played with Dorothy. I went to the Dirty Honey concert, a year or 2 ago, and I had no idea. But yeah, check him out, man. Check out whatever he does, man. Anything that Sam Koltun is on, man, sounds fucking amazing, man. It sounds like the guy lives, eats, and breathes fucking guitar. And when you're in the rock and roll business, ain't nothing wrong with that, man. And like I said, he's really infused Faster Pussycat, and already fucking great band with already an amazing lineup, man. He has been a phenomenal addition to that band, man. So job well done, Faster Pussycat, man. You got yourself a really good one there, man. And hopefully he's got many more fruitful years to come in that band, as well as his other musical endeavors. A lot of fun chopping it up with him, man. We started this episode a little bit late, but hey, he's a responsible fucking pet owner, folks. So I got to salute him there, man, as a pet owner myself, man. He was tending to the needs of his fucking animal, man. So we fired up a little bit fucking late, man, but better late than never, man. And listen, man, I'm always here for it, man. It's all about grabbing the great content to give to you guys out there, man. So I hope you guys enjoyed that as much as I enjoyed chopping it up with Sam Koltun, man. So many thanks to him, man. And make sure to like and follow us on Facebook. And also be sure to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell on this channel to stay tapped into this place where all the cool kids come to chop it up with your boy, Rexx Ruger. No place else. This is where the best conversations are going down, right here on this channel. And where else are you going to get to see these legendary rockers chop it up with the son of the legendary Diamond David Lee Roth Jr.? That's right, folks. Search your heart. You know it to be true that you are looking at the son of glam, the front man for the band, the peanut butter to your jam, Mr. Wham Bam. Thank you, ma'am. Shazam. Hot damn. Ooh, I'm feeling good. And of course, even after a long interview, I am fucking looking good. And again, I'll throw out the old product placement here. And I'm sure the boys in Faster Pussycat, going all the way back to the 80s. I'm sure Tammy has seen a can or two of this stuff right here back in the day. I won't promise that you can use it and look as good as me, but I've also got the Roth jeans. That means I get the Roth quaff. But hey, Don't hate, congratulate. I'm the offspring of a legend. What else can I say? And what I will say is what I always say when I end these amazing episodes. Again, thank you to Sam Bam Koltun. And let me remind all of you out there to take it easy and keep it sleazy.